Welcome, everyone, to an NABC off-season chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Craig Robinson. Craig, it has been an eventful summer. So many things have changed in men's college basketball, really in the entire sport. Obviously, the portal, NIL, so much is happening. As we get back onto campus, I know a lot of teams are traveling in the month of August, but where do we stand right now in terms of the most important issues for the NABC as coaches are getting back onto campus and fall semesters are getting ready to start here in August?
Yeah, Andy, great to be with you and great to see you. And as our coaches get back on campus, what remains to be their biggest focus are a couple of things. One is the transfer portal and learning how to navigate that. I think that's something that all of our coaches are having to deal with. You know, they're learning how to re-recruit the players they already have while recruiting players who are on other people's teams. Secondly, I would say work-life balance, because all of these changes are having the bulk of our coaches are working year-round with very little time for health, welfare, family life. So work-life balance is a big deal. And then, you know, trying to worry about winning games in this environment where you not only don't know what your roster is going to look like late, but you don't know what different conferences are going to look like. It's really amazing all the change that's been going on this summer.
So as you traveled around and are talking to coaches, from an advocacy point, where does the NABC stand on what you can do to be most effective to help coaches on whether it's, you know, the portal, shrinking it, when it's going to start, you know, in terms of in March, which weekend within the tournament, how many days, all those kinds of legislative issues that really affect on the ground the coaches. And that might be one of the most important, because it's hard for coaches to really affect NIL, obviously, at this point. We know that. So how can the NABC, from your vantage point, really be effective in helping change over this next year?
Yeah, Andy, and you said it, you know, one of our primary core values is advocacy for our members. And we are striving to ensure that our coaches' perspectives are considered in any kind of national policy and legislative changes that are addressed by the NCAA and its governing bodies. But the thing that you've heard me talk most about since I've taken this job is our coaches and our constituents having a seat at the table. And we want our NABC coaches to be a leading voice on issues impacting our game. And along with those efforts in advocating for a seat at the table, we want to make sure that everyone in the NCAA ecosystem is armed with the proper information and perspective that makes our game the game that it is. And we've got a number of committees that are working to do that. The biggest and most diverse is our Congress, which is made up of one member of one coach from every conference in the NCAA. We have our and those congresses are Division I, Division II, and Division III. They're not just Division I. We also have our ad hoc committee on basketball issues, which is our high-level Division I coaches who are working on issues that affect the game, as well as our board. Our board is made up of a diverse group of folks. So we are working feverishly with all of these constituents to talk about issues that affect the game and affect our coaches.
So what is the right, and you know, I'm curious if you have this answer, but it's okay if you don't, but what is the right week, you think, in March or April, and what is the right time frame for how long that portal should be open?
Well, you know, right now, the only thing I can say is, and we're getting feedback from all of our coaches, and and getting feedback from student athletes. Right now, I think 60 days is just too long. we are advocating for a shorter period, like 30 days. And I suspect we'll end up somewhere in the middle, but 60 days is too long for coaches, too long for players, too long for prospective student athletes. So I don't have an answer for you yet. We are working on putting together putting together a group of coaches and getting feedback on exactly where we want to land. But I think it feels like the coaches think that number should be closer to 30 days.
And in terms of the recruiting calendar, because it kind of dovetails with that, there's been a lot of maturations of that. What do we think a recruiting calendar could look like in 2024?
Well, we are working on that as well, and that's going to depend, Andy, on a lot of different factors. But what we want to focus on is making sure that our coaches have enough time to recruit their current players. Number one. Number two, to have some time to recharge and really work on their mental and emotional health and welfare, and spending time with their families. So, well, I suspect we'll try and get some more dead periods in there to make that work. But we're still this together, and hopefully by October we'll have something to present to the council that might make some sense.
I was thinking about, we've talked before the last couple of years about getting those other two younger coaches on the floor. When you think about it, how much do you think that ultimately will help with, for lack of a better term, resetting rest periods for the whole staff to be able to have, okay, if you've got 6, 7, 8 individuals, you 4 can be gone this time, you 2 this way. That if you only have a staff of 4 people, it's kind of hard for everyone to be gone.
No, that's
so in a way, how much will having more coaches, having access to players, help with the mental health of the entire staff?
Well, that's a great point, Andy, and that was one of the main rationales for us when we put forward that legislation, was that by having a couple of extra coaches who can be on the court, you can allow for your coaches to get some time off when they need it. It remains to be seen how far we can take that, and how what the responsibility of those two coaches can eventually be. But right now they can just be on the court, which means that those coaches who were on the court could either go to a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment or a kid's concert or something of that nature. So I think ultimately that's going to help, but it's not going to be as impactful as having more days just away from the office. And we're really hoping that this new pilot program that the NCAA is allowing the NBOC some autonomy will help us get across some of the things that we think are important for our game.
To dive deeper into that, what do you hope will come out of that pilot program with the men's basketball oversight committee?
Well, let me backtrack a minute, because as you remember, one of I talked earlier about a seat at the table. So one of the legislative initiatives that we tried to put forward early on was this thought of autonomy for Division I men's basketball. And our rationale was that while all college sports provide these life-changing opportunities for young people, not all college sports are the same. And in Division I men's basketball, we have unique challenges and opportunities, and its effect on student athletes is unmatched, and our effect on the overall ecosystem of the NCAA is unmatched. And it was our belief that the men's basketball should be granted broad legislative and policy making autonomy, untethered from the one size fits all governance approach. And this proposal was met with support by the Transformation Committee. I don't know if you remember, you and I talked about that, and the Transformation Committee liked our idea. And as a result of that, the NCAA has launched this new pilot program that will give men's and women's basketball and football's oversight committees broader authority to advance legislation more quickly and more specifically to our own needs. So what that means is the Men's Basketball Oversight Committee, which I sit on along with Matt Painter and Ed Cooley and other basketball practitioners, will have a seat at the table in deciding what happens to our game, like a recruiting calendar, or like more coaches on the floor, or things that we feel like affect our game but might not affect women's golf.
One other thing, Craig, related to that, there was a lot of chatter about summer exhibitions, where obviously we've sort of morphed into allowing charity exhibitions between two teams that are both Division I in the fall. It sort of died down. I mean, obviously, now that the pandemic is officially over, I guess, their teams are taking a ton of trips this summer. We've already seen them in late July, deep into August. Where do we stand on any kind of consensus of even more access or more games, if you will, in the summer?
I think what happened with that legislation is the timing of it was just, there was so, as you mentioned at the outset of this, there were so many different things that are happening with the NCAA and men's basketball. At this point in time, it felt like this was just too, there was too much going on for us for the market to bear another change. But I think from what I've gathered from talking to student athletes as well as our coaches, everybody is in favor of having something going on in the summertime. So I think you will see in the future that folks are going to keep working on this, and we're going to try and come up with a plan that fits, that will work, and that will be beneficial to both coaches and student athletes, as well as the game.
So obviously you said every sport is different, and also every division. I just want, before we go here, Craig, just if you can touch on what maybe are the most pressing issues or the feedback you're getting on what needs to occur with Division 2 and 3.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and I appreciate you including those guys, because I want to talk about that, and I always have to be mindful to remind not only our members but the public that our advocacy efforts aren't just limited to Division 1. In Division 2, our coaches are part of a group looking into the regionalization model for the NCAA tournament selections. Some in the sport believe that adjustments to the regional model are necessary to maintain competitive integrity in the championship. In addition, Division II is also beginning a new start of the season and a start of practice model, which coaches were influential in shaping. And it was really nice to see the NCAA be open to those changes. And similarly, in Division III, our coaches played a key role in advancing a new playing and practice season as well. That's going to start this year. And just in conclusion, Andy, we the NABC engage regularly with the NAIA, the two-year colleges, and high school coaches and leaders on issues impacting those levels, as well as how those levels impact the entire ecosystem of coaching. We have an NAIA and two-year college and high school representatives on our board of directors. So I appreciate you giving me some time to include that. But we've got a lot of things going on here at the NABC and are really excited about the future, albeit busy, but it's going to be exciting.
Well, I appreciate your time, Craig. I know the season's going to be here before we know it. With media days in October, teams are practicing in September, and then we're hitting and running right away in November.
Absolutely, Andy. It's always great being with you. It's great to see you, my man.